All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the program. My name is William Hemsworth. It's great to be with you all today. My guest is Nate Tinner Williams. He's a convert to the faith, on fire for the faith, and he's the editor and co-founder of a Black Catholic Messenger. Nate, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty darn well.
Well, good. That's good to hear. How are things going in your neck of the woods?
Well, we've officially hit winter in New Orleans, which means it's going to be like 50 degrees most days, which is a little tragic for me because I like warm weather. But other than that, we're doing pretty well.
All right, good. I'm in Tucson, Arizona, and the high today is supposed to be like 65, and people all over the East Coast hate me. So that's all right. That's why I live here. But
Yeah.
in the summers, we pay for it though.
Oh, I believe it. We same here.
So yeah, New Orleans. I've been there several. Now, hey, I know you're a recent convert to the faith. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you started looking into the Catholic Church?
Yeah. So I was raised Protestant, and I was pretty devout my whole life, being PK, pastor's kid, and so I was kind of set up to be not only a Protestant Christian, but probably a Protestant minister, which was kind of the direction I was heading in one way or another. And I studied theology in college, and I started to have some difficulties in my faith after college, like about how the church works institutionally, or
Okay.
certain denominations, that is. And then I started to see, most denominations are just like this, and it's kind of at some level, it's like run like a business and people treat it like a business. And that kind of made me start questioning things, not Christianity itself, but the way that, the brand of Christianity that I'm in. So I started to seek out other quote unquote brands, trying to find something that I thought was closer to what the first century church is like. And I had totally ruled out anything except Protestantism to find that. And so after going to the fringes of Protestantism, I realized, Protestantism is still Protestantism, and, everything's heading in the same direction. Like, I started going to a house church, and after that, really at its core, was not that different from a large, Southern Baptist church. Uh, I decided to try something new, which was Eastern Orthodoxy. That was in 2018, the very end of
Oh, yeah.
2018. And that was my introduction really into non-Protestant Christianity. And I kind of
Okay.
fell in love. Everything that I had learned about Catholicism up to that point, I tried to pin on to Orthodoxy, but it didn't work. And so I had to just learn and read. And eventually I came to accept that, the ancient church is the ancient church, regardless of what it might look like today or how different it might look. So after um, getting into Orthodoxy for a little bit, I started to investigate Catholicism, and I found truth there. And 9 months later, I converted, December 2019.
Wow. Now, was there any? I know you said you started questioning the how they do things. Is there anything in particular that stuck out to you? It's like, hey, this shouldn't be the case. Why are we doing this?
It was really the corporate aspect of things. Like I would see, I was in seminary and I would see pastors talking about ministry as if it were like, a sales job. I'm going to do XYZ for a couple years and then going to retire to Florida. And I'm like,
Wow.
what are you talking about right now? And that was kind of top to bottom. It seemed like, yeah, everybody was, trying to find their career path rather than a ministry. But I mean, that was my thoughts at the time. I know that at some level you can't avoid. Well, Catholicism is different. Obviously, people aren't necessarily able to approach it that way because it's not really a
Right.
job. You're signing up for life, and you're basically giving up your freedom and your decision making power to serve the church. Whereas
Mhm.
it can be a little bit different in that context I was in there, which is like you can do whatever you want. You can start your own church. You can, yeah. Um, so yeah, that aspect of things really started to turn me off, and I kind of ran from the institutional church as I saw it for a little while.
Okay. Now, as you were approaching Eastern Orthodoxy, what were you reading and what kind of stuck out that pointed you in that direction initially?
Nothing. It
Okay.
was Christmas 2018. My house church, my Protestant house church, wasn't meeting, and I was like, "Well, I want to go to church on Christmas because it's Christmas." And I decided, because I was questioning even that group at the time. I decided to try something new. I had never been to a Sunday service at an Eastern Orthodox church, and so I went for it.
Yeah, and they're beautiful churches, and the liturgies just it's beautiful. I've been to a couple myself, and so what I guess what took you from Orthodoxy to Catholicism?
My my thought is that it's hard to consider one without considering the other, especially if you've had no exposure to either. And I hadn't. I'd never been in a. I think I'd been in one Catholic church before that, and two Orthodox. One, I think, Orthodox wedding before that, and in neither case was I really like seeking. I was like, man, this is crazy. I can't believe non-Christians act like this. I I I would make a caveat like most Protestants do. Some of them are saved, quote unquote, but generally I was looking at them as some other religion. And so, yeah, I'd never considered them as a legitimate option before that point. And then it just, like I said, I
Okay.
just went for it. And the books that I read after the fact, after I started attending an Orthodox church, were just recommendations from Eastern Orthodox people.
Okay. Then you started looking at Catholicism. I guess what was that specifically like? Because some people will say, hey, Catholicism and Eastern Orthodox, same, and a lot of like you said, they certainly are, but there's
Yeah,
some little nuances in there.
yeah, I realized
What?
I didn't answer your whole question. The
That's all right.
reason that I started to consider Catholicism was actually because the place that I was at, most of my friends were Catholic, and so as I was considering Orthodoxy, I they were also like, you should look into Catholicism, which naturally I was like, okay, I mean, they're not wrong. It's just I had this huge bias against Catholicism because even though I had never investigated it, I did have strong opinions about it because my hometown was quite Catholic, and so I was around Catholics. I'd seen Catholic uh, schools and churches and had all these thoughts about them, and I ruled them out. And so it wasn't until that point in 2019 rather, that I listened to what an actual Catholic had to say about Catholicism, and that led me to some other books to supplement the Orthodox reading that I was doing, and I had to make a choice. And I guess it was more so that Catholicism seems to actually be Catholic in the little c sense of integrating universally, including universally, whereas Orthodoxy seems to have clearly a different kind of historical path where like most of it is ethnic expressions of the faith that are
Gotcha.
in communion with a couple of other or several, but not the world's ethnic expressions, but like Eastern Europe or a certain subsection of the earth. And so that was um, and also the Middle East and stuff. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, Catholicism's way bigger, and it seems like they have the uh, the bandwidth to handle that, to incorporate it, and to integrate it, and to still preserve that unity. Whereas Eastern Orthodoxy may not have that. It may not be seeking that. It may, like, if they feel like they are the church, then it's not necessary that you include all these other groups because they left, as I'm sure many Orthodox people would say. But
Okay. So in that regard, did the papacy play a big role then in determining that?
yeah, there's no way to integrate the ethnic expressions of the faith around the world unless you have that cap holding it all together, which, in my understanding, is part of the purpose of the Pope, is
Yeah.
to be that sign of unity. So that's that's I guess cause and effect there.
Okay. So can you walk? How did you come into there? Did you start off in RCIA and go through that process?
It was complicated. I did start
Okay.
out on RCIA. I think I was in it for maybe 6 months.
Okay.
But because I've been doing so much reading beforehand to almost become Orthodox, and then also to, want to convert to Catholicism, I personally felt I didn't need like a year-long class to learn the stuff that I was already learning. Like, I didn't join RCIA to learn about the faith. I joined RCIA to join the faith, like just as
Right.
the formality. And so yeah, I wanted to speed things up. I bounced around to another RCIA program, got the same kind of response of just like, you need to sit through this class, even though the USCCB had said, certain people don't have to sit through the whole class, but
Right.
it was what it was. And so I went to my daily mass parish pastor and asked him, like, what can I do? What should I do? And he was like, I'll confirm you. Sounds like you know your stuff. So that was that. A month later, I was confirmed.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize that, RCIA, don't get me wrong, it's great, and yeah, it does vary parish by parish. But like you said, you're an example how some people, if they're already learned in the faith, they've read, they've come along, there's other process. It's pastoral discretion, I guess, if you will.
Yeah. It's
So
interesting
you
what
got
the bishops have said. They like, because on Easter you're supposed to bring in the people who are converts, like from not who aren't baptized, and they specifically have said, like, don't put people in who are baptized with that group, because you could give the wrong impression that these people weren't already Christians. And yet most churches still do that. They bring everybody in at Easter. They make everybody do RCIA. And so it's a little known fact that more parishes should probably be aware of and start implementing. It might make it easier for people that want to convert to actually do it. I've heard some really bad stories.
Yeah, and I know on Twitter every now and then that's a debate that comes up, how, RCIA sometimes isn't needed. And like I said, you're a perfect example of that. So you got confirmed. What has your Catholic life, what's your faith been like since then?
Rapid fire. So I was confirmed. Man, it feels like it really has gone by very quickly. I was confirmed in December 2019. In February, I moved back here to New Orleans, where I had lived prior twice. And within a month of me going to daily mass fairly frequently, I felt a call to the priesthood. So, I mean, that was a rapid turnaround. And
Right.
that in and of itself has kind of jump-started my whole integration into Catholicism across the board, I would say. And so, still learning, obviously. Still a lot I don't know, but it feels like I'm just moving at light speed, or have to move at light speed just to keep up with what all is going on. And yeah, at the same time, try to make up for lost time.
Right. So you're discerning the priesthood. I know you're studying for a master's in theology, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
And then you've applied for the Josephites as well. Am I correct?
Yeah. So immediately after I felt the call to the priesthood, I spoke to my pastor and applied for the Josephites. And that process seems to be nearing its completion now, about a year later.
I'd be familiar. Can you describe who the Josephites are?
Yeah, they're an order that originally was a part of before they were an order, the priests were a part of the Mill Hill Fathers, which are a British order that came to the States in the late 19th century, mid 19th century, to minister to African Americans who had just recently been freed by the Emancipation Proclamation. And after a while, towards the end of that century, Father John Slattery asked for the U.S. wing of the Mill Hill Fathers to be made independent, so they could just focus on that mission apart from the British order, which did other things all around the world. And so they were given permission. They started the Josephites in 1893, I think, and they've been serving African Americans in African American parishes ever since.
Great. Now, you said the process is nearing its completion. What's the next steps for you?
I think I'm moving into like a pre-postulancy phase where I'll live in my parish rectory until I can start seminary next fall. They study at CUA in DC.
Great. Now, in the meantime, you've been staying busy. You're editor and co-founder of the Black Catholic Messenger. How did that all come about?
Yeah, so I I did my first semester of that master's program last summer, and part of what I was studying about was Black Catholic independence, so to speak, attempts in the past for Black people in America, Black Catholics in America, to have their own structure, leadership structure, and things like that. And around that same time in history, a gentleman named Daniel Rudd had started a Black Catholic newspaper called the American Catholic Tribune. And so I was wondering what happened to that tradition. Like, I know his paper may not exist, but what has happened since? And the answer apparently was not much. And so I'm thinking to myself, in the year 2020, why do Black Catholics not have their own publication? And there's a couple magazines put out by the Josephites, one, and Knights of Peter Claver, but those come out a couple times a year. So my thought was like, why don't we have a website just covering stuff as it happens, like everybody else in the world? So me and a group of Black Catholics got together and got it going in November last year, something like that.
So yeah, it's been pretty recent. So how has it been over these past few months with that project?
Difficult. It's time consuming. It's controversial. There's stuff people don't want you to talk about, stuff they don't want you to say, even if it's true. Stuff just, it's wild. Like I probably should have asked some people about what that's like. Not because it's been so devastating to me, but it's just very interesting, like how media works in the Catholic sphere, and how people, what you're allowed to say to keep people happy or to, not.
What can you give us an example of some of? I mean, free forum here, Nate. Whatever you want to say. Okay, that's been controversial. That's kind of it's taking people the wrong way.
Yeah. So I mean, just within the past, well, obviously the other day we had a terrorist attack in DC, and not long before that, I had written a story about a Black Catholic who is getting a radio show, and he said some pretty controversial things in the past. He has, tens of thousands of followers on social media, and I wrote a story about the things that he has said. It wasn't an opinion piece; it was a news piece, in my opinion. I'm saying this guy's been appointed to this radio network that just got rid of an outspoken Black Catholic radio host, multiple, and it seems like they're replacing them with this person. And here's all the things that he has said that are controversial, that might shock a lot of people, Catholics and non-Catholic alike. And people responded to that story basically like, this is a hit piece. This is, how dare you talk about XYZ things that has happened in this man's life? How dare you criticize him for saying XYZ things? And I'm like, he said them. I gave you links to what he said. But I'm not supposed to talk about it in the minds of some people. And yeah, today I learned that someone has said that I end conversations before they start, by having my own opinion, I guess. And so it's just interesting the way people will read things that are outside of their preferred ideology. And that's not to say I'm exempt from that kind of thinking. But what else are you supposed to do in a media publication other than speak on what you think needs to be spoken on?
Right. Now, how often do you guys come out with material?
We try to post every day. We put up a story every day up until a couple days ago. I think we've missed 2 days since. But yeah, we've got about 100 some stories up.
Okay. How many writers do you have? Because I know there's a lot of people that participate.
So I write most of the news stories, and I think we have about a half dozen other people who've written mostly opinion pieces, but also a couple of news stories as well. But I think I'm the only one working on it full time. So that explains that dynamic. But yeah, we're always looking for more Black Catholics to show to contribute their voice.
Okay. Now, if someone's interested, what's the website that they can go on to check it out and maybe help out?
Yeah, the website's blackcatholicmessenger.com, and they can email start@blackcatholicmessenger.com if they want to chat. We also have a submission form on the website.
Okay, great. Now, Nate, before I let you go to enjoy the rest of your Saturday, do you have any words of wisdom for someone out there that may be discerning the Catholic faith, or maybe wants to help you with the messenger?
Discerning the Catholic faith, look at the Catechism. Don't look too much at Catholics, individuals themselves, and educate yourself on the universality of Catholicism. It's not just what you see in America.
All right. Well, Nate, I thank you for taking some time to come on today. Appreciate it. God bless you for what you're doing, and I wish you the best of luck in the future with everything going on.
Thank you, William. I appreciate it.
All right. All right. That's it. My shows are like 20 to 30 minutes.